What's up, everybody? Wade Swikle here from the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. Welcome back for another exciting episode with a repeat guest. Today, I have Josh Jurhill, who is the CEO of Muscular Moving Men and M3 Commercial Moving and Logistics. Josh, you have been on the podcast before, probably about a year ago or, a little while back, not too long ago, but thanks for coming back on. I'm excited to catch up with you in June at the Arizona Mastermind retreat that we're going to be throwing. And you were just in my neck of the woods a few weeks ago, visiting some local moving companies that you're partnered up with and doing some estimates for your cross country moves. But what's new with you? Tell me a little bit about what's going on with everything that you have with Muscular Moving Men, with your commercial and logistics company. And I know you guys are doing an office headquarters build out, but just kind of in your own words, if you don't mind, just let's catch up. What's been
Yes,
going on?
sir. Wade, thanks so much again for having me on. It's always a pleasure to be on here, talk shop with you. It's awesome to get to see you in person in your neck of the woods a few weeks ago. So, what's going on? Let's see. Residential moving, strong March, really feel good March about what's happening in the residential moving sector right now. The commercial moving side of our business is really kicking butt more than anything, just really profitable. So awesome to have that division. And then, as you kind of referenced, we are, year three of building our new headquarters here in Phoenix, Arizona. That has been an educational process, but it's going. Hopefully, by about November or December this year, we'll be moving into the new headquarters and going to be an owner, not a lessor. A lot of positive things happening. Interstate side of the business is kicking butt. And as you put it, I got to visit down in Tampa and visit about five great moving partners down there. And I realized how accustomed I am to driving around Phoenix freeways and how different Tampa freeways are. You exit from the left and the right out there. I
That's right.
learned that if you take a wrong turn and then you get onto a bridge when you were not supposed to get on a bridge, you're going to go 30 minutes the wrong direction and then 30 minutes back the other direction and try to control your frustration. As you do that in Tampa traffic, when you were going to be on time to an on-site estimate, now you're an hour late.
Yep. I live here, and I have not too long ago still made that mistake. That is one of the unfortunate things about having a lot of water, is that once you're getting out on it and you past the final exit, then you will be on it for a little while
Yes, sir.
until you get turned around. But yeah, it was great seeing you down here. I know that you had made a trip over to visit some of your partners to do some on-site estimates. And for the listeners who may not have heard you on the last episode, or maybe you're just unclear on how your business model works, how does that long distance residential side of your business work with the moving partners that you have a network of all over the country, like ourselves, a few other companies in our area? I could try to explain it, but I think you could explain it better. And maybe there's some potential future partners listening.
Yeah, so our long distance side of the business, it's a fast growing side of the business. It's been an educational side of the business, and I think it kind of stemmed from our affiliation with a major van line back in 2015, where we really started operating tractor trailers and got accustomed to operating under that van line type umbrella. Before too long, it was apparent that we were not a great candidate to be an agent for a van line, and we just want to operate as an independent to control our own quality, client experience, call our own shots. That's what the best fit for us is. So it was very educational. We took that education and we essentially operate as an independent, but doing consolidated trailers, so paired shipments, just like kind of like a van line. But our big value add is that we are not a van line, we're not a broker. It actually says Muscular Moving Men on the side of the trucks on our guys' uniforms. So we're providing binding estimates that are typically competitive with any major van line, but we're providing that independent level of service. And so the challenge logistically when doing interstate shipments a lot of times is going to be uh, number one, to operate 53-foot tractor trailers so you can get these bigger shipments on one truck, and then having backhauls and efficient trips where we can be priced to be competitive with major van lines. So our way of doing that is leveraging our great partners around the country and being another tool in their toolkit for long distance opportunities that don't make sense for our partners. So they kick the opportunity over to us. We have a referral program where they're compensated for that. And by way of doing that, we are able to build our own network of long distance shipments. Through summer here, we'll have about 15 to 20 tractor trailers on the road at any given time, picking up and dropping off shipments literally all around the.
Yeah, it's a really, really good service that you guys offer too. We've worked with you several times when we have, a multi-truck job going cross country where, we only run 26-foot trucks ourselves, and it gets very inefficient, not cost effective to the client. If we're trying to get competitive and give them a deal that they can, compare to a van line or to another company that might have a 53-foot tractor, it really helps us out a lot. And you guys reward us back with a percentage of that as a referral fee. But there's a lot of different ways. I know last time we talked about the different ways that you can work with these partners with like the handoff or what was it, like a handoff and a lateral pass, or what are the different ways that you could. I know we've referred you those big ones though that really help us consolidate shipments, or even small shipments. If it's in a little apartment going across the country, it doesn't make sense to even run 126-foot up there. But if you can lump it on with multiple shipments, it can. And we've done a few different things where we've sent you those referrals, or we've helped with the packing and the loading, and then you've done the shipping and the delivering. But yeah, what were kind of those? How you phrased it, like the handoff and the.
Got to have great names for it. So we got the handoff and the forward pass. So it's Muscular Moving Men. We got the athletic background there. So got to have the handoff and forward pass. And I think the idea there is, again, leaning on van line experience, things like this. We don't want to be rigid. And that's also the benefit of being independent. We can call our own shots, and we want to be. I understand what it's like to be an independent owner because I am one. So we want to be flexible and work with our partner. And, I'm thinking through, when I was down in Tampa, was able to sit in, great guy over at Master Movers. You might know Chad Coatney. So, yeah, I heard him. And so I was just sitting in there, and I was connecting with the sales team. They welcomed me into their sales meeting, and I'm just kind of talking about how to best present this other option. And I think my take on it was that as an independent moving company doing long distance moves on a box truck, it's important to know your value and know your niche, in that you are the premium service. You are the dedicated truck. You're the dedicated pickup date, dedicated delivery date. Same crew that's picking up, same crew that's dropping off. This is the A plus first class ticket premium service, and people are going to pay that premium. But there's also the clients that are going to be more price conscious, or it's going to be a 12,000-pound shipment. This is going to be more than can fit on one truck. So in my opinion, if it's presented right, that it's not, this is the option that we provide. We have a couple different options. We got the first class ticket here, premium service, or we have our other option with our moving partner, which is a consolidated trailer option. They're an independent company just like us. It's just there's going to be a delivery window. It's still them all the way through. The price is just going to be a little bit more economical. Which one do you want to go with today? So it's kind of just, in my opinion, presenting the two different options and making it clear to the client. And I was kind of telling you offline there, like it was a perfect example just yesterday with one of your franchisees, Tyler. So he had an opportunity just yesterday that was going from Florida to Colorado Springs, and 8,000-pound shipment. So something that would fit in a box truck. But his price was $14,000. The client very much wanted to go with Tyler because two college brothers took care of him previously, but it just didn't make sense financial wise. So he got some other pricing from a van line, which was around $9,000, and $1,000 delta was just too wide. So Tyler presented us as the partner. Our price is like $10,000. So we've now won that business for April. So it's a win-win-win. We're based out of Phoenix, Arizona. So this is a Florida to Colorado shipment. Has nothing to do with Phoenix. This is a lead that we never would have seen if it wasn't for Tyler kicking this over to us. This is a opportunity that Tyler would have lost out on as far as seeing compensation from it because he just wasn't the best fit on this one. And then the client was likely going to get wrapped up into a van line, possibly a broker situation, and just not going to get the level of service. So it's a win-win-win that we received the opportunity. We're able to fuel our long distance engine. Tyler is able to get compensated for this referral, and that very importantly, the client's going to get taken care of with great service. So that was a beautiful example of kind of how it works.
Yeah, that's it's a really good tool to have in your back pocket when you're going up against, some of these van lines or brokers or lowballers or whatever they may be. Whether it's a small shipment that needs to go cross country and it doesn't make sense to send a full truck, or if it's a multi-truck shipment going across country, or even just a normal shipment like that, 8,000 pounds, it's going to be kind of right on the line on what's going to keep you under 26K in a moving truck, but in a box truck, but it's definitely doable. And but I mean, the pricing, when you have to pay a driver to drive all the way out to Colorado and then, hire local help, or even if they bring somebody with them to unload, then that's even more expense for that round trip, per diem, hotels, and then deadheading back. There's load boards and there's, companies that we are networked with all over the country, but it's not part of our core business model to pick up backhauls. And a lot of the backhauls are freight out there on those load boards. I mean, there's probably some mover specific ones, but you've been making that part of your business model to where you're communicating with all of these companies in every corner of the country. They're essentially a partner company of yours, a sister company. And it allows you to get the backhauls. It allows them to otherwise, take care of the customer, and that it's a trusted independent company that has a great reputation, great guys, knows what they're doing. It's not just going to be day labor on a driver calls when they get into town that nobody knows who they are. It's going to be vetted people that are going to do a great job. But I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. I'm curious to hear like how you started doing that, because we've thought about getting a tractor to be able to take on some of these bigger shipments going farther distances, but without building out that network and making it known that that's a core service offering that you do to pick up a shipment coming back, it just doesn't really make sense. I mean, there's a lot that goes into having a CDL driver and maintaining a truck and a tractor, but I'm curious how you got into it and like what some of the roadblocks are, the barriers to entry for other companies trying to also do that.
So, per usual in our company history, I kind of just maybe said yes and said we'll figure it out. So
like a true entrepreneur.
True entrepreneur, for better or worse. So we went all in on the van line type stuff, getting into tractor trailers, and good lord, was that an education on stepping up into over the road trucking and hours of service and all these kind of things, and dealing with CDL drivers, and is a different ballgame. Having the ability to take on larger shipments, that's certainly helpful, but that's kind of just one part of it when it goes into the logistical piece. After exiting stage right from the van line agent, we had tractors and trailers, but like, do we want to? How are we going to operate at a long distance level other than just having Phoenix, Arizona origin based projects that are going to go out and we're still going to deadhead back? So we certainly went with trying to haul freight back as well, but that's just such a thin margin business. And, getting household goods guys to then do freight, they don't want to do that. So staying with our core business model, it really started up with, I would say back to my van line days. It's funny how looking back, you can connect the dots and things line up, because another great partner out of Washington, Matt over at Already Moving, was really our first partner. So, hey, Matt, we used to be van line buddies together. What are we doing now? And how can we kind of work together? And so that was really it. And seeing some opportunities out of Washington. Matt ultimately connected me to another great friend of mine now, Grant over at Eco Moving, who's been very beneficial in our evolution as a company and is just a good personal friend. And I think from there, just kind of learning to dive into this and what it really means to be a great partner on the moving sides. I think our niche is to, number one, do what we say we're going to do. compensate partners, pay them on time, keep them updated with weekly, monthly reporting as to all their leads they send us over. What's the disposition of the lead? Did it book? Did it not book? What's the revenue on it? What is the partner getting paid? And aside from that, we better darn well make sure we're doing a good job. So we share the feedback from the clients to the partners so they know how we're doing. And I think so. The evolution of adding partners and and all around the country is really important, so we can service any shipment, any small, large origin destination, anywhere.
Hey movers, it's Wade Swikle, and you're listening to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you've ever wasted money on marketing to the wrong homes, listen up. This is why I use USA Home Listings. They're the only platform in the moving industry built by movers that not only has new home listings and under contract listings updated daily, but now offers enhanced data that can eliminate vacant homes and give you phone numbers and emails for both homeowners and realtors, giving you multiple ways to connect and close more jobs. Their vacancy AI tool removes empty homes so there are no more wasted mailing efforts, and their Tier 2 data takes it further, providing highly accurate contact details for both homeowners and realtors for email, phone, and social outreach. The result? Higher conversions, stronger ROI, and more book jobs with less spend. Check out usahomelistings.com because it's where real movers get real leads.
So now once we've gotten to that point, really stepping up our game as far as logistics, operational, like it's an ongoing education, driver recruitment, driver training. How do we compensate the drivers? Move coordinators, the trip planning, diving now into filling the gaps with military hauling type shipments, load boards for military, interline agreements with other carriers so we're not running around empty, because tracking margins on long distance trips is a whole different animal as well. It's one thing to charge $10,000 on a long distance shipment, but if your costs are $11,000, what are we doing here? So I think that's where sometimes I'm even envious about running box trucks on long distance shipments, because it's very controlled. I'm going this mileage, this many hotel costs for the guys, paying these guys this much. I'm coming back empty. I need to charge this much to make my 50% margin. Take it or leave it, Mr. Client. It's controlled. Whereas, we book a job with the, betting on ourselves that we're going to fill out the rest of that trailer ultimately. So it's an interesting
it's a fine balance, and I don't think it's for the faint of heart. I know Louis Massaro talked about back when he was doing his conferences, he talked about how he had started a long distance division kind of overnight and went and got several tractor trailers and started doing a lot of the same things, and he said that it was a whole other animal, and I think he regretted doing it a little bit once he got into it, because it was kind of chasing one of those shiny objects, thinking like, wow, there's a lot of money to be had here. But I think you got to go all in on it, because he said that he'd have trucks breaking down in the middle of the night, people calling, with all these, a lot of things that can happen, a lot of moving parts with that sort of a thing, and having you as a service that focuses on that and goes all in, and it's part of their business model, as opposed to a company that's just trying to get it to be part of their business model to be able to capitalize on additional work, are two totally different things. So it's good to have a partner that is doing that without having to sign a van line agreement and give up 14-16%, whatever van lines charge for their cut on those types of leads that they send over. But when you first started off, were you just basically sending a 53 footer out across the country and then picking up the phone and calling movers along the way to try to see if they had anything that might be coming back in your direction? Or were you looking on load boards or in the beginning, before you had the network that you have today built up, like what were you doing?
Anything, to be honest. So we were going out with Arizona, and really we were needing to charge enough to get us out of Arizona and come back empty. So not much different than running box trucks. The only difference is that we could get more. We wouldn't have to send 2 or 3 trucks. We could send one tractor trailer, but everything else kind of remained the same. And I think, so that's kind of one of the benefits of taking on a tractor trailer, even as an independent that's not doing, you know, maybe the amount of long distance work that we're doing, but still you're going to have to account for your expenses and getting back empty because there's really only the shipments outbound and not coming back.
Right, right. So with van lines, everybody's heard about the big ones. You got all the Unigroup guys, your Mayflower, your United, Atlas, North American, Wheaton, you got National, you got a bunch of different van lines, and some are better than others. So I can't speak fully for every van line, but the general van line model is that they've got agents who sign an agent agreement, and a lot of times have a local name that they might operate under, but they operate under the van line name, some more than others. But the van line, they get the corporate accounts, they get the military stuff, they get the government work, and they're moving people all over the country. So they'll get that lead. And a lot of times they'll work with like a move manager, like what is it, Cardis, something like that. Yeah, Cardis. There's another one, Lexicon, something or other. I don't know. There's a few of those move managers. So these, say a corporate move is going to relocate an employee. They have their department, HR, purchasing, whatever department that is, that a lot of times will contract with a move manager who will then contract with a van line that they have an agreement with. And then the van line will coordinate with an agency, and then the agency will coordinate with an owner operator over the road driver who will then hire labor and then bring it to a whole other location, get the labor agency, all these different, like passing the footballs, back to the sports terms, down the line, where that customer, poor Mrs. Jones, who's just an insurance, underwriter for Allstate or whatever it is, they, they think that their company is moving them. That's all they think. Or maybe they know that Mayflower is going to show up and move them, but I don't think realize that they're getting passed along to so many different points of contact. Everybody's kind of getting a piece of the pie along the way. And, that's how things get lost when they're stored in transit. They, have damages because it's being handled a lot of times. And for everything that, I'm saying about van lines, they also do have a very strong logistical network to do a lot of good things. But there's also a lot of cons, I think, with that van line model in terms of customer service, communication, stuff getting handled, stuff getting stored, offloaded, lost, whatever, depending on the quality of the agency, because every agency is going to be operated slightly differently. There's going to be different drivers. There's going to be different helpers on the other ends. I'm curious what you guys do that's different than that traditional van line model that has basically done it the same way for 100 plus years. What makes Muscular Moving Men different, and how your model operates compared to that, what I think is a relatively antiquated model. And again, not every van line may do it, that exact way, but for the most part, that's my understanding on how that side of the business works. But what separates you all?
Well, I think that's pretty well said. And even as you were going down the line there, I was getting dizzy. But I mean, I think that's pretty spot on, and I think that's basically what we sell against. And it's a pretty easy sale for us because of everything you just described. There's so many hands involved. There's so many different origin agents, destination agents, hauling agents, operations department, my move. Like, who the heck am I dealing with, and who am I supposed to call? It is so many hands in the pot. I think, everyone's taking their piece of the pie, as you put it. I think that's also the challenge of anybody making money at that route, because the margins are so thin when everyone's got to get their piece. Owner operators, the list goes on. Not to mention the quality of service when so many hands are involved. It's a lot, and they've been doing it for many, many, many years, and they have their process dialed as much as you can have that process dialed. But our big value add is that it's only us. There's no Muscular Moving Men agent for this van line or that van line. There's no owner operator. These are W-2 drivers that work for our company alone. So they're not
Wow.
turning down shipments, anything like that. I think that's a whole another cool piece, that the majority of these drivers we've put through CDL school, and it's been an elevation opportunity for our team to really make some life-changing money for them. All of our CDL drivers are making over $100,000 over the road, which that's really cool to see. Some of these guys elevate their life status. But to your point, in question, what makes us different? From the time that they're calling in, we are handling this in-house. we are scheduling their move. Their sales rep is here for them the entire time. The move coordinator that's assigned to the job is right here in Phoenix working with the client the whole time. The W2 CDL driver that's assigned works for our company alone. There's no confusing truck that shows up, agent for this van line, this truck, it's a broker that's booking a job and then a whole different company. It says Muscular Moving Men on the side of the truck. And I might say that our wraps, they look pretty awesome on 53 feet as well. So I think simplicity from the amount of hands involved, they know who to call. It's our one office headquarters here that's overseeing everything. The trip planning, all the communication to our drivers is done right here. And then I think just even our drivers on site, not only are we doing an electronic inventory, no paper, but we're using company cam software to take photo documentation of every single item that we're touching at origin, again, at destination. So the client's getting copies of that. So I think we're all about the 5-star experience, and it is challenging to provide that on interstate shipments when you're pairing multiple shipments together. But the amount of control that we have as an independent and not outsourcing any pieces of this allows us to still provide that high level of service that an independent can. And a lot of times, a van line with many, many hands involved, it's challenging for them to provide that same level of service.
Yeah, no doubt. Somebody also in Phoenix, a mutual friend of ours, Derek Green, turned me on to, called the Mobile Society. And it was written about the moving industry back in the 1970s, when that was prior to the Motor Carrier Act of 1980, where they kind of opened up the free market for movers to have independence. And there was like 2,000 moving licenses going into that act. And overnight it went to 40,000. And now it's, I don't know how many moving licenses are out there. I know that there's roughly somewhere around 20,000 moving companies of all different sorts, roughly 7,000 like good, legitimate, I think maybe just independents, but like good, legitimate companies. But I'm sure there's a lot more moving licenses floating around. But anyway, this book goes into a lot of really interesting detail. It was written in the 70s. And so it's unadulterated by modern day philosophies, technology, politics, perspective. So if you want a piece of history to really learn how the industry, especially the van line industry, has been ingrained, and it's so deeply ingrained that I think they're kind of almost stuck doing it the same way that they've done it for so long, because so many people's livelihoods depend on it. It's their businesses in so many different areas. It's second, third, even fourth generation families that run a lot of those agencies. But if you want to really find out the fundamental roots of the industry, I recommend that book if you can find it. This one is actually, it says South Orange Public Library on it. I think I found it on eBay. So I don't know if somebody stole it from the library and sold it, or if nobody ever checked it out and the library sold it, but it ended up here. So
the past due notice on that is real.
Yeah, somebody else's problem at this point, but you can find it on eBay, maybe Amazon. So anyway, just a little sidebar there. But yeah, no, I hear exactly what you're saying. What's that?
Shout out Derek Green on the referral there.
Yeah,
Derek is great guy. Get your move on owner here in Phoenix as well, friend, and what a character. And actually, that he was how I first met you, because there was the Park City ski event.
Yeah, we just did a ski trip. Yeah,
went up there and got out of my comfort zone, and that's where I met you and Chad and a lot of guys for the first time, and did some terrible skiing while I was up there as well.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a fun trip. And I met Derek at one of our very first, well, it wasn't actually ours. It was a mastermind that Chad and I went out to in Scottsdale back in probably 2020 or 2021, right after COVID. Chris Ship and Jesse Lovin put that one together, and Derek was invited out, and that's where I met him. And, that was a really powerful event. It definitely, that's honestly what inspired Chad and I to start the Titan Retreats. And now we're coming full circle and going back out to Scottsdale in June. And we'll be touring Derek's facility over there. And he's doing a lot of interesting stuff. If you don't know him, he's a character and very, very knowledgeable about the moving business. So good mutual contact there. I want to take a second and tell you all about Tighten Up Training. As a co-founder, we've spent months and months and months and a lot of money pooling together resources from some of the best moving companies in the world. And we're excited to bring this to an online platform available to any mover to use at an affordable price. Tighten Up Training has over 200 videos, including mover training, your highest turnover position, so that you can reduce claims, streamline operations, give your team the tools to perform at the highest level of service that generate repeat and referral business and allow you to charge higher prices, as well as sales training, marketing training, business development, leadership. We're adding more content as we speak. We've got legal training in there. We've even got door-to-door training for the moving industry, thanks to Lenny Gray at the Moving Titan Retreat. We've seen a massive explosion of moving companies jumping on to Tighten Up Training since the last retreat, and people are loving it. And when you sign up and mention this podcast, we're going to give you a free 6-week onboarding course in order to learn how to hold your team accountable and get the entire team on the platform so that you can have the best off-season and summer season that you've ever had. So go to tightenuptraining.com, schedule your free demo today, and look forward to tightening up. Yeah, I mean, you're just providing that extra level of service. Have you ever thought about licensing out Muscular Moving Men to moving companies, especially if they don't already have a very strong brand presence in their community, but almost kind of like that van line model where you get an agency agreement, you license out Mayflower to, Tom's Moving in Sacramento or whatever. I'm just making stuff up. I don't know if that exists, but have you thought about doing anything like that and kind of converting to, getting your partners to embrace the Muscular Moving name and licensing that name out so that handoff or that forward pass is even more seamless with the customer? Because the only barrier I can see is like, that conversation with the customer where they feel like maybe they're getting handed off, or maybe, if they're not told and communicated with that, Muscular Moving Men truck shows up. I'm just curious, have you thought about it? And then how are people overcoming that friction point?
Yeah, good question. And so I think, no, I haven't considered that one. We've opened up other locations in other markets previously. We closed all 3 of those. Try again, back to kind of getting out of our skis at times.
Yeah.
But that was educational. But I think we got some really cool things in the works here of ultimately, looking into acquisitions and working with other potential partners that are either looking to exit the business or looking for strong partnership, and that's coming down here the road. So ultimately, there's a lot in the works of working with other partners and leaning more into the long distance opportunity. And I would say, this is a business within our business. Case in point, like we are literally breaking off the Muscular Moving Men long distance financials now. So there's the local side of the business and the long distance side of the business. There's different financials because we are looking for more clarity and just want to have it that defined. And so as we're evolving this business in its own right of the long distance side, we are constantly looking for new ideas of how to improve. And I think what you just brought up is another great opportunity. I think, you present that kind of challenge of how do you present this to the client, because that's ultimately where it's going to matter. We have another great partner, awesome guy, great name. His name is Josh as well, with Big Man's in Florida there. And he
backyard,
right? He's an awesome guy, Josh and Brooks, shout out. I think one of the other big benefits is that every partner has an assigned account rep. Whether that's Colby for Big Man's, for example. It's not just like, hey, I'm going to send you to this van line. No, I'm going to send you to Colby with Muscular Moving Men. That's our assigned rep. So, it's giving an actual person, and that feels good for clients, I believe. In addition to that, Josh does such a great job of sending we call it co-text or a shared text to the client. So there's warm intros, not just with a warm call transfer potentially, but also just a warm text. So that handoff is real. And on the flip side of that, we don't have the best results from other partners where it's like, hey, we're not a great fit for you. We know some dudes out in Phoenix, like, you want me to give you their number? That's not going to really land with the client as much.
Right.
But I think this is Josh is a great example. We booked we booked 59% of his referrals this past March, which is pretty awesome, unheard of.
Nice.
And I think that's a testament to how well he does the setup. So that's a very long-winded tangent answer to your question.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's all about how you frame it with the customer. You build the relationship, then the rapport with the client that you're ultimately just trying to give them the best experience at the best price for the best value, while still maintaining that quality. And I really like that idea, what you said there about giving it a human name, because people like to do business with people. So like, if I have a client, I might say, Josh, I'm going to connect you with Josh. He's a partner company of ours who is going to be able to take just as good a care of you, but save you a little bit of money on this, because this is what he specializes in, and what he does all day. Where we're probably not going to be the most economical company to handle what you're trying to do. But I'm going to start a group text with you and Josh on this, and they're doing business with people. You're still part of it. If there's any kind of an issue, you're still sticking your neck out, and but you just build the relationship. I build the relationship with you, and I know that they're in good hands. So I'm not worried about that customer, having a bad experience that comes back on me. Whereas in some of the other operations out there, van lines or whatever, you never really know who they're going to be dealing with or what they're going to go through with it. So that's a cool piece of it there. Do you guys do any marketing in other parts of the country? I know you mentioned you had a couple estimates in Tampa. And I don't need all your secret sauce, but I'm just kind of curious if you have people flying around doing on sites or doing virtuals with like a live switch type of a platform, or which makes it distant, eliminates the distance issue. But are you doing any of that, or are you mostly relying on that word of mouth and those referrals?
It's all from our moving partner referrals right now. So there's certainly opportunities to do a Google My Business type location in a market, or a pay per click targeted campaign. Again, all things we've considered. It's out there, but I think another benefit there would be we would get a lot of local opportunities, which we are not going to service, but we could just kick these back to our local partners to service. But we're not actively doing that. So these are all referrals from our moving partners, and we do all virtual on-site estimates. And in the occasion where we need an on-site estimate done, we just reach right back out to our partner who would have referred the job originally, and we compensate them for going to do the in-home estimate on our behalf. And a lot of times we'll even do a live switch with our partner. So our partner is actually out in the home, and they live switch into us. So we have the recording and everything, because we want to have actually as many virtuals and recordings as possible, because we ultimately share that to the client, and we share that to our driver, so that when our long distance driver gets on site, they've watched the virtual as well, so they know if anything's off from what was originally discussed.
Yeah, that's what I love about Live Switch, is that you get that recording, and it
Yes.
uses AI to make it even more efficient with tallying up inventory, since it's like connected directly to Smart Moving with the integrations there. But that's super valuable to be able to have, rather than just like do a FaceTime that you have to still write it all down, put it in the CRM, whatever. Like, you actually can share those recordings back and forth. I think that's a really good tool to work together on stuff like that.
I love, yeah, we are on virtuals all day using Live Switch. But as to the couple on site estimates I did while I was in Tampa, that was more just because I was out there. I told the team, hey, any estimates that might come in that, I'll be out here these dates. I'd be happy to go knock out a few in home versus virtuals and make the most of this trip, book them right on site. A little cocky as a salesman. I think you got to be. And I'm like, no one's going to book these like I can in home. So I went and did a couple, and I would, went in there, a lot of confidence. My first time ever doing on-site estimates in Tampa. I'm like, got this. And, some good takeaways that I brought back to Phoenix that, and the funny side of this, had to go across the country to learn some good lessons. Went in there, booked 0 for 2 in the home. So I'm like, golly, did my breath was, what happened to me? Like, I used to be really good at this. Luckily, one of two called back, so I booked 50%. But it was educational. I could bring that back to the team. Let them know that when I was in these homes, geez, Louise, guys, they were getting 6 estimates for each of
Wow.
these clients. I mean, this is a competitive market out here, and we're doing virtuals. We're not even in the home, so we had better be on our game. And I think this is back to something I was saying earlier, knowing your niche. because there was literally, a slew of postcards on each of these two on-sites dining room tables. What material was left? What kind of companies were these? The client is getting bombarded with different estimates. So how are we going to make this not all about price? How are we going to sell value? Because we're doing it over a virtual on-site. So taking a lot of things from my experience and then also bringing that back to Phoenix here. So when we're doing in-home estimates here in Phoenix, how are we different? Because it's been a while since I did an on-site, and just bringing back some good lessons.
Yeah, it is getting really competitive with postcards, I've noticed. And I was talking to somebody the other day that said that they went into a home and there was like 40 postcards all sitting out there. And there's some companies that will do very similar designs on postcards. One thing I like about USA Home Listings, that is one of the sponsors of this show, is that you have full freedom to set up different types of campaigns to try to stand out with those. We're actually experimenting with a couple different postcard campaigns where we've changed some price points a little bit that'll trigger a couple different designs depending on the different stages of the process. I'm not going to give away my full secret sauce, but trying to find ways to stand out. You'll have to come to Arizona to get that. Maybe I'll talk about it in June. But finding different ways to stand out, because Louis Massaro kind of, I feel like, was the first one to talk about the effectiveness of postcards, and I don't think everybody knew about it back before that. And with them, between different postcard mailing companies, marketing and talking about the services, between talking about it at retreats and the Facebook groups. I mean, everybody's doing postcards now, and they're all doing it. Maybe not all doing it the same way, but most of them are doing it the same way, where they hit them with the newly listed, and they hit them with the pending, and it's on the 6.5 by 11. And that still works to an extent, but I've seen the bookings go down, or the ROI go down on that strategy over the last couple of years as everybody started doing it. And it made me realize it's time to mix it up. It's not the mailing platform. It's not the actual process of mailing, because it does still work. But there was a point in time where, it was bringing in $100,000 a month, and now it's maybe bringing in $30,000-$40,000 a month with that old strategy. So I still believe in direct mail, but I think it's time to get a little creative with the direct mail. I still think hitting the newly listed, the pendings is great, but how frequently, how often, how much, is there going to be diminishing returns if you send more than just the recommended newly listed and pending? What different designs are going to stand out? Is a handwritten card going to work better than a postcard? Since, Lewis used to say, do the 2 postcards. And now everybody's doing that. So is a trifold going to work? A wedding invitation style? Is sending them something completely different going to work? Is going and door knocking with the USA home listing data at the homes for sale and running routes? We were experimenting heavily into that a little while back. Most of you have heard me talk about Moversville and the power of their email marketing service that has helped us increase leads by over 112% over the last year. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services and lists like insurance providers, softwares, equipment suppliers, marketing sources, and much, much more. The best part? This resource is free. Go check out Moversville Connect today by going to moversville.com and clicking Connect. That's moversville.com and click Connect and discover the world of Moversville beyond email. I'm curious to hear what your experience has been with I'm sure you guys do direct mail locally in Phoenix. And we can switch over a little bit to some of the marketing strategies that you've found working, if you don't mind sharing. But I'm just kind of curious what you've seen with the traditional way of doing the mailers and how that's been working in different parts of the country.
Yeah, I think what you just said, how it works in different parts of the country, is a big thing, because this was a takeaway I had from a couple Titan events, that different things work in different parts of the country. That's one thing to take note. So I think as far as the results from postcards in Phoenix, it's a very mixed bag. So I think, we are kind of pivoting and trying to be as unique as possible in a couple different avenues from postcards. And yeah, you got to be thoughtful on secret sauce type things there. But I think, in general, trying to be unique, come up with unique processes, thoughts, ways of going about it, and then dive in. I think another takeaway is, coming up with a new idea, a new whether that's a new division, new idea, new marketing strategy, you got to put effort into it, and it's not always going to just work immediately. Like, oh, scrap that. But well, I guess the moving partnership program is a great example. That's very unique. It's very different, and it takes time to get traction. And it doesn't. We have a team dedicated to handling that. We have some new initiatives that we're working on, and it's tough to get buy-in from marketing team, business development team, and I think that's where it gets tiring sometimes from an ownership perspective is implementation and getting the team to buy in. I think that's a takeaway now. And then I would say also, again, a master of systems with my guy Grant from Eco, but just taking away that putting scalable systems behind everything, including marketing initiatives, so that they are getting done repeatedly the same way constantly and driving them home and driving them home. And then we can make a real educated decision whether or not we're getting ROI once we've really put systems and force behind an initiative.
Yeah, consistency is key in any kind of marketing. I mean, they say it takes 7 to 12 touches to take an action. It's probably more than that in moving because not everybody's moving all the time. That might work for an evergreen service, maybe for storage. Storage, I feel like, is a very evergreen service that you can market to anybody, whether they're moving or not. People that are moving might need more of it, but that's, something that I think you got to have a systematized approach. I remember before I found USA Home Listings or any other, postcard mailing service, I used to go on Zillow and I just had this like thought, like I was like we know all these homes that are for sale, they got to be moving. And I would go on Zillow and I would try to write, type up something, and actually found a stack of like the old like sales letters from like 2015 or something that I had, put a lot of thought into writing out. And then I was trying to mail it to these homes on Zillow, not knowing, anything about, what the best strategy to do it was. And I'd do a bunch for a week and then I'd give up and then nothing came of it and I kind of forgot about it. And then it wasn't until I realized the importance of that consistent daily mailing and who to mail to specifically at price points and vacancies versus furnished homes and all that good stuff. And I mean, it's not just postcards, it's any kind of strategy, even canvassing, walking into a high-end apartment complexes, condos, high rises. I'd love those moves because a 1-bedroom move can easily be $2,000 or $3,000, and it's just pushing stuff down hallways and elevators. And in order to get in with those, you gotta have a strategic, systematized approach to stay front of mind with the leasing agents, and then get into the building and get in front of the residents in those buildings. So we've broken our entire region into zones, and we use Google Maps to be able to update, pinpoint every location, update last time somebody was in there. It's shared with our team. A lot of different things. We could talk marketing and systems all day. But you mentioned some stuff there about different things are working in different sides of the country. I know here in Tampa, we've been having an excellent March. It's going to be our best March that we've had, and we've had a few months over the last 6 months that were most of the months have either been our best or second best month. So I see a really positive direction that the industry is starting to move in. And it's not that we're doing a whole lot of different things. We have added some different marketing sources, and we've done a few different things that I think are contributing. But I think on a macro level, I think the economy is starting to improve. But then I have spoken to a few companies that they're not as busy as they'd like to be, and I've talked to some that are crushing it, and I'm hearing different things from different parts of the country. Have you noticed any trends in different parts of the country or on a macro level on how you think 2026 is going to shape out to be? Because as far as I can see so far, it's off to a great start on our side, but just curious what you've seen.
Yeah. I can really only speak to what we're experiencing in the Phoenix market. And again, we have a kind of a unique blend with the amount of interstate and local. But I think in just from a top line revenue, volume of jobs kind of getting completed, March has been right up there as far as record residential months. Now, our as a company, our best few months we've ever had in our 18 years or so is they've been all May and June months, because I went back and looked. And so March 2026 is going to be up there with the best few May and June months we've ever had in our company's existence. That gives me a
Nice.
lot of optimism for what happens in these next few months here. I don't want to get overly optimistic, but of course, as my analytical brain was looking like from a percentage wise, in March of 2025 versus June of 2025, we did 75% more in top line revenue. March 25,
Wow.
June of 25, we did 75% more top line revenue. So being that we just are having a huge March right now, I'm like, golly, I sure hope from a percentage standpoint that holds true, because June 2026 should really be something. So I think we're on an upward trend. I mean, that's not, but I'll say, on the flip side, February was flat with February of 2025. January was better than January 25. February was flat. So it's a little bit all over the place. February on the residential standpoint in the moving industry hasn't been fun for a long time.
February, I mean, that's February. You're not going to get a lot of people who are closing on houses in February. I think a big reason for that is, the lead time from getting approved on a mortgage to the time that you're ready to, move and close on a house. And, February is in a weird spot. Like January, is still pretty slow, but I think a lot of people have been pre-approved prior to January based off of their other tax returns from previous years. And come late January, February, they're still waiting to get those tax returns done so that they can get pre-approved on a mortgage to be able to start the process of buying, selling, and moving. That's the only thing I can think of on why those months are so slow. But I think come March, the taxes, they knew they were going to be moving for a couple months. They got the taxes done. They got the pre-approval. Now they're ready to go. And then I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen in April, a lot of times March is a pretty decent like kind of preview of what a summer might look like. And then April might dip a little bit from where March was, and then it just starts taking off come May. Do you ever see a little dip in April, or what's been your experience with the trend?
I think you're pretty spot on with that. That is a kind of interesting analysis, because even now I'm looking at April numbers, what we have on the books, and I'm like, I would, I've been doing this a lot of years, and it does feel like we're going to have a dip from what we have projected revenue.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, you're getting your taxes done in January, you're ahead of the game. You're doing it before anybody even starts to think about it. And so accountants can turn those around pretty quickly so that you can move in March by the time you get approved and do whatever. But come March, you're probably, everybody's trying to start talking to their accountants, CPAs, getting the taxes done, and the mortgage brokers are probably slammed with all the closings from that month, and they're slower on the pre-approvals. And so because of that backlog, I feel like maybe that's why April is a little, tends to dip a little bit from March. But I don't know, philosophy, theories of moving, who the heck knows? It's been a weird market these last 5 years as it is with COVID. But I'm really hopeful with a new Fed chief, chair, whatever you call that role, come May, that we get some more interest rate cuts. I know we've seen a few of them. That would be huge. I mean, that would just pour gasoline on the economy for us if that happens. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of factors outside of all of our control. All we can do is continue to find new ways to innovate and stand out. But I want to talk real quick. We're coming up on time in a few minutes, but we have a few more. You're doing a lot of commercial and logistics work with M3. Is that a relatively new line of work, or have you been doing commercial for a long time? And how are you kind of breaking into that game?
Amazing how time flies. It's 7 years in now for M3
Wow. Okay.
commercial client. But another big connect the dots looking backward type thing from my van line experience was meeting another great guy, Josh Murray, who's at a moving company in Indiana now. But he was really good at commercial moving and residential. Asked him if he wanted to help kick off a commercial division in Phoenix. He said, no thanks, but go to IOMI, see Ed Katz. So my partner Justin and I made it through Ed's video, got the IOMI certification. Shout out International Office Moving Institute. Through that, we're like, man, we need the guy to run this division, because it's a different art form. And through a couple more connections, we get linked up with Jim Stevens, who's my partner now and just an industry leader, just an absolute beast. Relocated Jim out here from Washington, D.C., where he previously worked for J.K. Moving, just an absolute monster on the East Coast. And, never did one residential move. He's all commercial moving, eats, breathes, sleeps, everything, office and industrial moving. Took a chance on us, came out here. We were blessed enough to be handling all the AAF and then XFL football league moving. And so that's where he stepped into and oversaw those relocations all around the country immediately for those organizations before they went out of business, one because of COVID. But it was a great starter point for him. And then, so M3 Commercial now is, well over $10 million annual revenue.
Wow.
We have representation in a couple locations now, and it's a different division. It's a different tax ID number. It's a different logo. We got the blended M3 Muscular Moving Men logo here.
Nice.
But it's a different team. It's a different way of estimating and everything. And it's great. It's higher margin work, and there's a lot that falls under the workplace solution, office industrial umbrella. And so it's some really, really cool projects, some big dollar projects, a lot of opportunity, and a lot of these accounts are having relocations all around the country because they have, locations in all around the country. So it's been an exciting journey, and, we've been able to even, through what we call a commercial bolt-on opportunity, bolt on some commercial locations in other states with partners. So that's something else that we're really excited about, for the right partners to roll that out. But commercial
Very
moving
cool.
is been a really cool diversification for us, especially with a slowdown in residential.
Yeah, I mean, what a great way to hedge the slow, the ups and downs of the residential economy, even the annual seasonality of the residential side of work. I mean, how awesome would it be if you could keep your schedule full in January, February with commercial work, and then do the residential all summer? And I know it doesn't always work like that because commercial's all year round, but between that and the annual recurring revenue of storage, two great ways to offset seasonality. And I like what you did with the M3. We've been talking about doing something similar and having a 2CB commercial division. And, been playing around with a few different things. I talked to my mentor ChatGPT on how to format, proposals, and how to get a template to get on vendor lists set up and come up with an SOP to go out and pick up more commercial work, especially with our new warehouse that we're still building out now, that you saw a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, whatever that was. And, maybe we'll do something with the logo, but ChatGPT kind of reaffirmed me, and they said, it's not so much the name of the company, it's how you present yourself, how you, can speak to the professionality on the templates of proposals, on vendor packets, your outreach, on your, to show that you know what you're doing. And it essentially recommended, you find out who decision makers are for commercial work. You connect with them on LinkedIn and send them a message, letting them know that you do that kind of a thing. You figure out what their email is. Maybe that's a Zoom info. Maybe that's on, their website, whatever. You send them over, some, an inquiry asking, how do we get on the vendor list? Here's what we do. And then if they request it, send over that packet. And that's something that we're going to be working on. And I think it's partially a numbers game, but I'm curious how you went about, especially in the beginning, before you had built up accounts or gotten your foot in the door with any of these commercial accounts or jobs or businesses, kind of what you did or what you still do to win commercial, or just the market towards commercial, because it is a different ballgame. Operationally, it's a very different ballgame, but I think it's a different ballgame when it comes to the marketing and the getting those jobs and those leads.
So I think so for us, I'll start kind of back at the start here. So from the company name, Muscular Moving Men, love the name. It's our original name. I'm not sure this lands for somebody that's overseeing their office commercial move. Some muscular guys, like, I don't know if that
Same.
speaks to, moving the cubicles, IT, making sure that my business doesn't skip a beat and that I'm not down. I can't have my business be down. And so I just didn't know if that spoke to that enough. So when we started M3 Commercial, obviously it shows up on Google because it says commercial moving right in the name, these kind of things. And then it just philosophically, it sets the tone that this is different. This is a different division within our enterprise. All we do is office and commercial work. And then I think back to what I was saying about the marketing initiative, got to be all in. When it comes to diversification, whatever it is, be all in. And so we're all in on commercial. And so with that, we don't have like a residential sales guy that does a little bit of residential, a little bit of commercial. It is all commercial on the commercial side. It's all residential on the residential side. So from project managers and everything, it is the commercial specific side of the business as to who we're marketing to, commercial real estate brokers, things like this, down to the talk track. So as you can imagine, when we're with a client moving their business and everything, and we are selling against residential movers trying to do a commercial move. Do you want a residential mover trying to do a commercial move, or do you want a commercial moving specialist? This is all we do is commercial moves. Can you really take the risk of this not going well with a residential mover who doesn't is sending 3 men, 4 men in the truck and trying to approach us as a residential mover versus somebody that's operating as a bucket brigade and sending 3 trucks, 10 men running in a shuttle, and we can talk in the weeds, and then it becomes very easy to sell to whoever's running the commercial move. And we actually charge a premium, and they're willing to pay a premium because we know the talk track. And then I'll take this back to the amount of the competition, even in your market. In my experience during the on-site estimates, the commercial moving specialists, you might not even know who those are in your market because they don't show up in your residential competition. So I think
I only know because we used to share the back of a warehouse when we first opened in Tampa with one of them, and had a friend of mine that started working with me go work for one, and he told me a little bit about it. But otherwise, I don't see any advertising from strictly commercial companies. I know who 2 or 3 of the players are in town, but yeah, no, to your point,
it's really just different. And then as much competition as there is on the residential side, there's just not as much competition on that commercial side. But it's a different art form, and got to be all in on it.
For somebody looking to really go all in on it, what are some of the upfront costs to get that going? Assuming you still have a warehouse, you still have, some trucks, you might need to hire some specialist movers for that. Maybe you could use some of your, movers back and forth. But I'm curious to hear, if you've got that core infrastructure, trucks and a warehouse, what would be some of the upfront costs or things that you would need to put in place to get started? Like, I'm assuming hiring somebody from the commercial moving industry to facilitate it, both from, do you hire somebody for sales and marketing, somebody for ops? Do you, in the beginning, have one person running both? Is there any other potential upstart costs with websites, marketing, that sort of a thing that, I'm curious for my own reasons, but I'm sure there are people out there listening that, might be interested in going all in per se and setting up, a similarly branded entity, but at the same time, a commercial focused branded entity.
Yeah. So I think you're kind of going from the approach that I'm starting a new business all up over again. Kind of. You've done all the hard work to build an infrastructure to manage trucks and men and scheduling and residential moves, office, warehouse likely. So there's a lot of the heavy lifting, pun intended, has already been done. So I think now you got to have some admin. So there's going to be some cost there to find the right point person. And ultimately, there is a sales and operations aspect of that. I was blessed enough to get Jim that is just kind of a unicorn in that from that standpoint that brought the operational and sales aptitude to build everything. But you're building a separate website. You've got a separate marketing campaign there. There's some different insurance costs, different level of entry with the amount of general liability insurance you have to have for some of these offices you're doing work in. So there's some specific things to the commercial division, but the biggest cost I would say is investing into a person. Call it the operator, the sales guy, whoever that might be. That's going to be the biggest investment. The harder part, more than likely, of having some infrastructure and operations built there is probably already been done because you're already handling the residential side, which requires a lot.
Makes a lot of sense. I kind of had a feeling, but I'd love to talk more on that with you when I see you in June. We are a little over time. I know, again, I promised 45 minutes to an hour. I just love these conversations. I could talk moving all day, and we almost always go over with some extra value for anybody listening. But thank you for coming on, Josh. This is it's always fascinating to talk to you. I consider yourself a mentor and a friend. And I'm really looking forward to catching up. You're a heavy hitter in this business, between the logistical, nationwide moving, the commercial side of things. I mean, we didn't even really get into a whole lot of local stuff, but I know you've got a massive presence with that out there in the Phoenix area, and just really looking forward to continuing to talk on this stuff come June. So if you're interested in getting in the room, I heard from Faith this morning that we have 5 spots left. So go ahead and lock that in, because Josh is one of the big heavy hitters that will be coming out to our June 10th to 12th mastermind. And check us out. I think just go to our Instagram and send us a message, or our website, and fill out a form. I think there's a special website for the mastermind that I don't even know what it is right now. But just connect with us on social media, or info@movingtitanretreats.com. Hopefully that one was right. But thank you, Josh, again, for coming on. This has been an awesome episode of the Grow Your Moving Company podcast, and I will see you guys all next time. Tighten up. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you'd like to learn more about any of the sponsors listed on this show, want to apply for the next Moving Titan retreat, or interested in owning or working for Two College Brothers franchise, drop me a line at wade@twocollegebrothers.com. Moving out. Have a great day.